Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Paul Faronbi, also known as IncrediPaul. Paul is a leadership coach, speaker, and podcast host focusing on helping Gen Z professionals develop the skills, confidence, and mindset needed to succeed in their careers. With a background in engineering and experience working in major organizations, Paul combines real-world experience with leadership development to help the next generation step into their potential. Paul, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Hi, Olivia. Super excited to be on this show. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining me. And it's such a pleasure to be speaking with you. So I'm very much excited to dive in and learn a little bit more about your journey as well. I think it's really cool stuff of what you're doing. So with all of my guests, Paul, I actually like to start at the beginning. So if you don't mind briefly taking me back to what it was you was doing before you started IncrediPaul. And then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I was starting IncrediPaul, worked as an engineer. I actually still work as an engineer. So dual vocation. I love engineering work. I love what I do at IncrediPaul. But the foundations for IncrediPaul, I think, were really from college. I was always someone that was really passionate about leadership. And I was the person that was in different groups when you're in college or in high school, and people look to me as a leader. And it wasn't really until college that I was more intentional about my leadership, going after different student organizations, pursuing leadership roles, and then also helping to start a student organization while I was in college. And then after college, I was involved in a lot of other things, really on the focus on an organization that helps people who are underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and math. And so I did that right after college, but it was 3 years after that I wanted to do more specifically to help everyone that was more focused on leadership. Because what I was doing before was on the career side, professional development side. I want to do more stuff focused on the leadership side of things. And so in 2020, it's when I launched IncrediPaul, pun intended. And I thought it was and it was actually a nickname I had in high school. And then when I was trying to figure out what to call the company, I was like, why not just call it IncrediPaul? So that's how that started.
Yeah, that's such a cool name. I've said to you at the start before recording, and it kind of obviously fits in with you as well, especially if you had it since high school. Lean into that 100%. That's
Hmm.
a cool aspect. And I suppose even with the leadership aspect, I feel like everyone can point to that one person in the group or even in their class, that one that naturally took that stage as a leadership role, and it doesn't come easy for everybody. So I love the fact that
Hmm.
you are very much like taking control of your superpower and obviously using that advice and that experience to help other people along the way. Naturally, I find a lot when I'm with leaders, they're often thrown into that kind of position or that kind of role. Yes, it might be the steps they want to take into their career, but just because they're very good at their job doesn't mean they necessarily have that experience or that skill to lead a team. So it is such important work you are doing, which is a really cool aspect. So let's dive into IncrediPaul a little bit more, just so that the listeners can have some context moving forward. So Paul, at this point in, who would you say like is your ideal client? Like who is it that you very, very much love to work with the most? And then from there, how is it you help them? And how do you support them along their own journey?
Yeah, so IncrediPaul is very focused on Gen Z professionals. So definitely have helped a lot of people along the way, but I'm most passionate about Gen Z. So I have to clarify because some people they see me on screen and they assume I'm Gen Z because I look younger than I am. But I'm a younger millennial, but passionate about Gen Z, and I think I have more of a Gen Z mindset with the way I do things, especially with the dual. I don't even know if say dual because like multi-vocational, different things that I do, whether it's on a nonprofit, for profit, or in the engineering space of things. And so I'm really focused on the leadership side, and I say leadership as opposed to the business side of things. And how I distinguish that is that business is for the profit, but leadership is for the people. And if you're able to take care of your people, they will take care of your profit.
That is so true. And not a lot of companies think that way either, like especially within more of a corporate mind, like a corporate background, I suppose, or big organization. It's a lot more
Mhm.
numbers and kind of shuffling that profit first and then forgetting about the people later. But as you say, like staff retention is a big thing when
Hmm.
you're looking to grow a company. And if you can have that leader very much responsible for that, you just have a nice trickle down effect throughout the whole organization. And then obviously with regards to Gen Z, I myself, I think we might be around the same age because I often get confused with being a Gen Z as well, but I'm right
Yeah.
on the cusp. I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes I don't even know which one I'm born in. So it's kind of cool, but they're definitely like an age group that have grown up so fast through technology. So there is so much
Hmm.
help that can have that they need in their careers, and obviously deciding what path is right for them kind of comes into play
Hmm.
as well. So that's a really cool aspect to lean into. So what is it like to work with you, Paul? Like how is it you help people? What are the offers you provide to them?
Yeah, as far as offers, so I think the easiest offer is I have a podcast as well. So just people to know more about me and what I do with IncrediPaul Leadership. So, but then I also do a lot of coaching. I do speaking as well. So really the key aspects I focus on are the resilience side, the leadership side, which both of those go hand in hand,
Mm.
and really understanding that leadership is influence. It's not necessarily a title. A lot of people think they have to wait until they're in a leadership position to become a leader or they're in a management type position. But the way I see it is everyone knows someone that is on the team that isn't necessarily the manager of the team, but when anything that comes up, you go to that person for advice, for questions. That person is a real leader of that team. And there's other teams where you have a manager and that you would want to go to for advice or for things, and everyone tries to avoid them. They're the last resort because they don't have the effective leadership skills. And I really distinguish because a lot of times people call them soft skills. I hate calling them soft skills. There's nothing soft about them. I call them leadership skills or life skills, or more recently, power skills, because that's where your power comes from.
Yeah, I love that. And I say, as I said at the start, not everyone is born to be a leader, but when you are, as you say, people do naturally more gravitate to them because they're
Hmm.
not waiting for that title. As you said, it is just who they are as a person. So yeah, leaning into that power and taking it from there. So a lot of speaking, which is obviously beautiful because I feel like, especially in the modern world, like people need to resonate with somebody's voice. So I
Hmm.
love the fact that you're kind of obviously getting yourself in on stages and just reaching that audience with as much authenticity as you can. And then when you are coaching with your clients, do you go into the organizations and kind of go to them directly, or is it more on a one-to-one level?
It's a little of both. So the
Okay, cool.
one-on-one is more so I don't advertise the one-on-one as much because it's more time consuming and it can be expensive for people as well. A lot of times I focus more on group coaching or group mentorship. I
Nice.
have done like more executive coaching in the past, but like I said, like my passion is really around Gen Z and really helping them to empower them. Because what I've realized is I think every generation does this. They blame the generation coming behind them that, hey, what's wrong with them? What do they do? Not realizing that the generation before them, you raised that generation.
Yeah, so cool.
So so it's your responsibility to make sure things are good. And I think as Gen Z and really Gen Z is digital native, so
Yeah.
know technology really well, but just understanding that technology is great, but it doesn't replace the people side of things. And one key thing I always talk about is leadership and the listening side of things, because a lot of us listen with the intent to respond, we don't listen to understand. And
Yeah.
there's a distinct difference between those two things. If you, if anyone, just a key takeaway from this, if you don't get anything else, be intentional about listening to understand instead of just listening to respond. And you be shocked at how much deeper your relationships become because people actually feel listened to. Just think about when you truly feel listened to, what that reaction is. And if you can give that to others, your relationships will become so much better, much more impactful.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And that advice goes for every aspect of life. As you say, like if you
Hmm.
remember how it feels to be heard, do that in exactly the same way. Don't. And I feel like Gen Z get a bad rap for that naturally because they have been brought up in more of that digital aspect.
Hmm.
They kind of get digged on for their social habits. So I feel like again,
Hmm.
it's nice that you're providing that clarity and just making it aware that like how they can kind of go about that and make sure they're implementing little tools like that, which are so
Hmm.
impactful and so great when you are connecting with anybody. As I said, like relationship wise, business wise, whatever it may be, that's such a beautiful tool to use throughout all aspects. And Paul, one thing I'm very curious to find out, because naturally you'll know yourself, it's a very busy, very noisy world at the moment as well. So like, how are you going about like acquiring your customers, getting your voice heard? Like, just what channels and methods are really working well for you at the moment, and just finding those right people to work with?
Absolutely. I am a huge proponent of LinkedIn. I think it's
Cool.
I know a lot of people are on there, but I think it's also underutilized still. I think I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but there's a lot of people on LinkedIn, but there's a very small percentage of people who actually post and engage on LinkedIn compared to any other platform. So there's a lot of, I think the blue ocean is a term for it as far as being able to get in there and start posting. I think AI has definitely made it a lot easier to
Yeah.
craft posts. But what I tell people with AI, because AI is not going away anytime soon or really ever at all, is you just have to be intentional with how you're using AI and engaging with it as opposed to letting it think for you. And so it might be, and I think it can be hard at times because it's like anything, your brain is a muscle. If you don't do if you don't use it or do certain things, it is harder at the beginning, kind of like working out. You just have to be intentional about how you're using it and what you're doing and letting AI to fine tune or workshop things as opposed to going to AI first. And when you do that first all the time, you're not going to be able to have as much creativity flowing and it's going to be harder.
Yeah, no, definitely. You end up sounding a little bit more like robotic. And I think,
Hmm.
well, obviously AI taking over a lot, I think leaning into like humanity, so leaning into those errors, those
Yes.
authenticity. And as you say, using AI as a tool is beautiful, especially
Hmm.
for that marketing aspect, because it does take up a lot of time in the day. So it's nice that you can have
Hmm.
that support, you can run it through. But yeah, definitely using it to like enhance what you're doing and not replacing what you're doing is the way I like to use it as well. But LinkedIn, I think, is a great platform. And as you say, I think the statistics that I read is like if you post consistently for every day for a month, you're in like the 1% of the
I
top
think that's
1%
right.
of posts or something. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
very much underused, but it also can feel a little bit like a swap and meet. I don't know if you have them in the States where it's like you're like just kind of exchanging one service to another and then you're like on to the next. It's much like a tuck shop we say in the UK. So
Hmm.
it's just kind of navigating that in the best way possible. Do you run any form of advertisements across LinkedIn or is it just very kind of organic on your output?
It's been more organic. I've been thinking about doing more advertising, but for the most part, there hasn't been a need for it. A lot of the stuff I've done has been through word of mouth or people who just
Nice.
been following me for a while, and then they just know at the back of their mind and they'll reach out for different speaking opportunities, or sometimes people or send like podcast guest recommendations or to reach out
Yeah.
for coaching. More recently, I've been trying to do more stuff on Instagram as well. So still
Nice.
trying to build that up because really Gen Z is primarily on Instagram. But I guess Instagram is kind of unique in a sense that definitely social media is for entertainment as a whole, but Instagram is and TikTok is purely entertainment. I think TikTok has more informational stuff too. And so the stuff I talk about, I mean, there can be some entertainment side of things, but that's just not me. I'm definitely more an authentic person. Definitely on Instagram, like if you follow me on
Cool.
there, on my stories, you'll see like different things I'm doing that's more fun. But a lot of the content you see is, I would say it's definitely serious. It was the real world is probably the best way to
Yeah.
describe it because I don't like to sugarcoat things. And sometimes life is hard, sometimes it's difficult, but life can also be exciting as well. So I talk about both things, and I
Nice.
think it's important because I think in the TikTok real life that we live, we see snippets of things, and usually we're only seeing the positive, we're only see the positive, only see the good. We don't see the struggles. And I try to be really intentional about things that I struggle with because I've even talked about sometimes with social media, I'll just take breaks from it or I will not be on it or I'll post and just go away because it is something that can be self-absorbing if you let it. And unfortunately, I have like a team that helps with social media, so it's not only on me too. So I think, but not everyone can do that and then also keep their voice. So that's something I'm intentional about to make sure that even
Nice.
if I have a team helping, that it's still my voice coming through and it doesn't just become something that's more generic.
Yeah, I like it. Beautiful. The same way you like we can utilize AI for the same means, obviously I think having a team is a little bit more effective. But as you say,
Hmm.
still keeping your authentic voice there, you just having someone else kind of take over that hat for you is a great
Hmm.
one. And I think Instagram's a beautiful platform, especially for the ICP you're looking to, as you say, Gen Z, it's kind of like what they grew up doing,
Hmm.
especially when Instagram started, it was a very different platform to what it is now. So as you say,
Yes.
and leaning into that authenticity, again, what we said before, what separates you from everybody else is the
Hmm.
struggles and the challenges you're going through, and other people will resonate with that. So I think that's a really cool way to do it. TikTok is a whole nother behemoth. It's like
Yes, it is.
there's like a cult following sometimes on TikTok.
It
So the
is.
audience really
Definitely is.
differ compared to the two. But I still think having kind of multiple streams and
Hmm.
different content on each one as well, but obviously within unison, is a really cool
Hmm.
approach. I think it's nice. And then obviously when that time comes to move forward, you have at least that nice experience you can just kind of throw gasoline on top of and hopefully run to the hills and see it burn, which is pretty cool. And I suppose with all that being said, like Paul, what are your ambitions or your visions for the company moving forward? When you think of maybe like the next 6 to 12 months, what are those goals or those milestones that you're looking forward to achieving?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm doing more stuff because a lot of the coaching stuff has just been on request, and I've been doing more focus on speaking. But I'm not sure when this is going to be coming out, but like somehow in this the second half of the year, I'm excited about some stuff I'm going to be doing with a new mentorship program that I'm launching. So I've been very much focused on the leadership side, still passionate about that. But there's a lot of stuff I've just implemented in my life on like doing some stuff with investments and fitness and just budgeting and expenses. So I'm branding it IncrediPaul Life. So those four letters, leadership, investing, fitness, and expenses, because those are all I think those are key aspects of life that people want support on. And those are things that I can help with, but I also know a lot of people in that space that can bring in. So that's something that they can look forward to in the second half of the year that I'll be working on.
Cool stuff. I love that. Yeah, so like as you say, more of like a life coaching session, not just leaning on that leadership side of things. And as
Mm-hmm.
you say, I definitely from my like education growing up, there was never one ever provided that information to us. It was very much
Hmm.
something now, obviously with the access to the internet, you see a lot more of how you can get helped. But it's nice again that you're bridging that gap for people and getting that like 360 approach to
Hmm.
everything, not just in that workspace. So that's a really
Hmm.
cool aspect. Where are you probably finding like the biggest challenge for yourself at the moment, though, within the business, or even taking those next steps for yourself?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge for me is to, and I think it happens for anyone who's like a creative or entrepreneur, is just focusing on things because I'll get excited and I want to do all the different things. So even this Incredible Life idea, I've been sitting on it for probably the last year and a half, 2 years, because there's been other things I wanted to focus on more, like with the speaking side of things, and then doing more stuff with the podcast and building out a team. I think I mentioned earlier too. So I still work full time as an engineer as well, and I enjoy it. Something that I think about like maybe stepping away from it. I'm not to that point where I'm comfortable to do that quite yet. But at the same time, I really enjoy what I do as an engineer, and I really enjoy what I do with IncrediPaul. So it's like it's balancing the two and making sure that I'm setting myself up for success with the right team and the right strategies to be able to be successful.
Yeah, beautiful. It's nice that you still enjoy obviously your day-to-day work as well. And as you say, you can kind
Hmm.
of grow this on the side as that like passion project or even that side
Hmm.
hustle until you're ready to
Hmm.
really make that full step. I think it leaves you in a really nice position when you are growing a business because it can be
Hmm.
scary, and it can be lonely. So
Hmm.
it's nice that you're making sure you've got those, I suppose, systems in place to help you get to where you want to be. And Paul, I have one final question to ask you. So if you could go back in time to a younger self and you could only leave yourself with one piece of advice moving forward, something you know now, but that you didn't know then, what would you say to yourself?
That's a really good question. And it's definitely something that I've learned through podcasting and just interacting with different people is don't be afraid to try something new and to pivot. And yeah, I think that's really what it is. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
try something new, because when I was in college and doing different things, I was always hesitant to do new things and I wanted to make sure everything was perfect. I tell people that I'm a recovering perfectionist, emphasis on recovering, because I think it's a process. It never really just ends. But I think as you try other things, you may be exposed to some stuff that you enjoy more. And I've talked about it on other platforms before, but when I was going to college, originally I wanted to be a doctor, and it wasn't, well, growing up from 4 years old up until 18, I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh,
And then I got exposed to other things that led me into engineering. And then from engineering led me more into entrepreneurship. So my life has just been an evolution of seeing things and exploring them and loving it and then continuing to do it.
I love that. That's so cool. And yeah, lean into that more. I feel like people often forget, they're scared the first time they do anything. So as you
Mhm.
say, just take that step and just go with it. You can always turn back if you get scared along the way as well. But Paul, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out best to work with you or connect with you if they would like to do so?
Absolutely. On my platforms, it's at the letter I, the letter M, IncrediPaul, like the pun there, Increda, Paul, or go to IncrediPaul.org. Or if you search IncrediPaul, I now am the first person that will come up. So there was a competition in my head anyway, because when I put that name out there, there's an IncrediPaul in, I think, Sweden, and he was more
Oh,
on the, yeah, on graphical design side of things. But now when you search IncrediPaul, I'm really the first person that comes up.
beautiful stuff. Incredible. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, thank you for joining me. And to our listener, sorry, yeah, Paul, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for joining me again. I really appreciate your time. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to go and check out IncrediPaul. As he just said, type it into Google, put in ChatGPT. I'm sure he'd love to hear from everybody. Please drop him a message. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from $0 to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing, and we will see you on the next one.